The Tempest Trials Brothers Friends event is accompanying our 2020 Spring banner. Today we'll be going over what rewards are available to earn. As usual, if you earn the maximum 50,000 points, you can get 42 orbs, 11,000 feathers, and 80 sacred coins. This month we have Ephemeral 3 divine codes, and you can earn a water blessing to match legendary Sheeta. For sacred seals, we have Attack and Res Push and Attack and Res Oath. Our reward unit is going to be Spring Luthier, and you can get a 4-star and 5-star copy. We'll talk about it more later on. First up, let's discuss our two new sacred seals. First up is Attack and Res Push 3. At start of combat, if unit's HP is 100%, grants +5 attack and res during combat, but if unit attacked, deal 1 recoil damage after combat. Another push sacred seal, this time for attack and resistance. Generally speaking, push skills are pretty okay budget options if you really only plan to fight one time. They grant stats for either phase with no positioning requirements, but they require full HP to proc, and they deactivate themselves with that 1 recoil damage. Unless you have consistent healing, it's not really worth depending on these skills. They aren't the worst sacred seals, but I wouldn't say they're worth spending coins on unless you really have all the other stat boosters. While they require some positioning work, you could run things like Attack and Res Solo, Bond, or Form Seals, and these will at least continue to work after one round. If you wanted to stack Attack and Res Push 3, you can find it, or you can find the A skill on Brady. The tier 4 version of the skill is a lot better, but for quick attack and res stacking, it can work out. Our second sacred seal is going to be Attack and Res Oath 3, which is a new skill line turned sacred seal. At start of turn 1, if unit is adjacent to an ally, grant +5 attack and res field buffs for 1 turn. Oaths are usable by infantry and flyers only. So oath skills aren't too bad as sacred seals. Our other self-buffing seals are the odd and even wave buffs. Back in the day, these weren't bad options for extra stats, but we've gotten some really amazing sacred seals like attack and speed solo. You don't really need field buffs in the sacred seal slot since we just have the stronger in combat buffs like solos or forms. It would have been more useful to have the oath field buffs in the C slot. Now, there are exceptions to this, mainly units who require field buffs or bonuses to be active to activate their skills or weapons. Easiest example are the blade tome weapons. You can be self-sufficient without needing other buffers, especially if you compare Attack and Res Oath with Speed and Defense Oath in the C slot. That's +5 to all stats for the blade tome. Now, the bad part is that Speed and Defense Oath only comes from Mini Marth, so unless we get more Oath sacred seals, this fully buffing setup is a bit tough to put together. Other examples include bonus W units. For infantry units, they can use the field buffs to activate their ideal A skills, and there are some weapons like the Huge Fan or Spirit to Axe, which requires a bonus to activate. There are also cases where you may want to run a certain C skill. Overall, Attack and Res Oath is not bad as a sacred seal, but it's also not a must-have. It's a solid option if you really need field buffs on a unit, and you can't run it in the C slot.
If Delthea saw me in this outfit, I'm certain I would scarcely hear the end of it. Does our spending time here together mean that we've become friends?
Our reward unit is Spring Luthier, here to keep tabs on Delthea. He is forgoing his magic and is a Lance Cavalier this time. One thing I want to point out is the rabbit on his weapon. I did not notice the face I was making at first, but it's pretty good and matches Delthea's angry hat. For stats, Luthier will have 41 HP, 38 attack, 36 speed, 31 defense, and 27 res. Pretty similar attack and speed to his mage form, but he's going to have a lot more physical bulk with his lance. Luthier has attack and res super boons, both are pretty fun options. With the extra res, he can have a decent defense and res spread while retaining some good speed to work with. In general, he's not the fastest or the tankiest, but pretty good middle ground for any type of playstyle. This Luthier is very moldable depending on the skill you go with. For his weapon, Spring Luthier has the Carrot Tip Spear Plus. It has 14 might, and at start of combat, if foe's HP is greater or equal to 75%, or a penalty is active on the foe, grant +5 attack and defense during combat, and unit's first attack deals extra true damage equal to the attack plus defense penalties on the foe. Carrot Tip Spear is the same weapon or weapon type as Spring Henry's Bow. These are attack and defense focused and can work on either phase. Ideally, you really want attack and defense debuffs on the enemy, and that will give the user extra damage for one hit. For example, if the foe has -6 attack and defense, that's an extra +12 damage for Luthier on his first attack. Not a bad weapon, but it does require a reliance on debuffs. Luckily, Luthier does have a way to get his own debuffs. For his base kit, he has Attack and Defense Bond 3, which is not my favorite skill for Cavaliers, but it works in this kit. You can get +1 attack and defense with the Carrot Spear. do procs and debuffs, Luthier has Reposition and Attack and Defense snag 3. If you use a movement assist on an ally, emit -6 attack and defense on the nearest foes within 4 spaces of unit and ally. Snag B skills are absurdly rare, and the devs have finally realized that they aren't really worth that premium rarity. You can find snags on some 5-star units, but this is the second one on a free unit with Hatari Dean also bringing one. They are sort of the buffing counterparts to Link B skills, but snags also compete with the Ruse skills. In general, the B slot has a lot of key combative skills, so it's not the first choice for many units. In the context of Spring Luthier, the general game plan is to have an ally attack first, then Luthier repositions them behind him, and the snag debuffs go out. Then hopefully on the enemy phase, Luthier gets that extra damage. You can do the reverse for the player phase, but you're gonna need to reposition Luthier forward, and then he can attack the debuffed enemies. The only thing with that is that the bond skill probably isn't gonna proc. Like Spring Henry, Luthier does have weighting his own attack and defense debuffs. It's not the most common gameplay, but you can give it a try. In terms of merging, Luthier is going to get +1 HP, attack, and speed for the neutral nature. That is pretty okay to keep. If you want to spend trait fruits, you can go with attack or res super boons, although speed's not bad either. Again, Luthier's stats are pretty flexible to work with whatever. It all comes down to your skills. While we have a lot of Lance Cavaliers to choose from, we don't have too many fast ones. In fact, the closest heroic girl comparison will be Patrine, but she's found her own niche by having the Flame Lance deal magic damage. Luthier definitely works fine if you're looking for a somewhat faster cav. Some of the other options include Near's Leg Yarn, Finn, and Camus. Camus got his distant counter lance, while Finn got a very nice Dofre's Brave Weapon with his Loyalty Spear. He's certainly a standout choice if you're looking for some brave attacks. One thing you will notice is that Luthier has a ton more resistance to work with. The Lance Cavalry class really struggles with resistance in general, so if you want a more well-rounded unit, Spring Luthier is quite nice. If you wanted higher attack or defense options, we had Orson and Fernand last year, but they are a good bit slower. On the 3 to 4 star Sunnable side, Luthier is pretty good counterpart to Roshea. They both are Gen 6 units with similar HP, attack, and speed. Roshea focuses on defense, while Luthier goes for the more res to balance his defenses out. Obviously, the main difference is heroic growls versus RNG summoning, but maybe the extra res is more important to you. When we have a whole bunch of heroic growl Lance Cavaliers, we actually haven't gotten that many demoted options since launch. I think it's literally just been Silas, Ferdy, and recently Roshea. Ferdinand is a close comparison with Dragonflowers, but Luthier is still gonna have a lot more base attack. If you want some Gen 1 options, the faster ones include Abel, Perry, and Roderick, but they all have their own refines as well. Overall, Luthier is a pretty solid Lance Cav if you want to build one up. Speaking of which, let's discuss builds. If you don't want to change much, then Luthier's kit does technically synergize together. If you position an ally to safety, attack and defense snag procs, and then the enemy attacks Luthier, he's going to get plus attack and defense from the carry tip spear with attack and defense bond. You also get the 12 extra damage for 1 hit. If you want to try this playstyle out, you can go with a bond circuit seal or try out a form skill. I would personally refine the weapon for extra speed and try a speed increasing sacred seal of some kind, but you could also just do extra defense or res. For specials, you can try Moonbow, but Luthier will get a pretty decent bonfire proc if you can hit it. If you want another debuffing method, it's going to require some fighting, but you could do defense and or attack smoke. You could reposition Luthier forward, proc attack and defense snag, then initiate with him. After combat, you debuff the surrounding enemies. There is also threats in attack and defense too, but you basically need the enemy to walk right up into you. Chill attack or chill defense also work, but I don't really think they're necessary. Maybe if you have it on another unit, it would be fine. If you want to make offensive moves, then definitely swap out attack and defense bond for something like Fury or Swiss Sparrow. If you can afford it, the Carrot Tip Spear Plus is extremely solid with attack and defense menace. Not only do you inflict -6 attack and defense debuffs without any extra actions, and you get the free buffs, but Luthier frees up his B slot for fun skills like speed and low speed and defense. If you go the menace route, then Luthier's gonna hit pretty hard, and you may as well go for full offense with things like Swiss Sparrow 3, attack and speed solo, or attack and speed catch 4. If you just want to bust through tankier and slower units, you could opt for something like extra defense, maybe go with attack and defense catch or solo, and you can use flow guard to bust through wary fighter and instant specials. If you want your own special procs, then attack and defense menace with heavy blade works out pretty nicely, and Luthier does have decent enough base attack. If you do not have attack and defense menace, you could use a debuffing ally, and Hareed with his new buffs are a perfect choice. Freezing Steel 2 inflicts -7 attack and defense in an AoE, and it also provides guard. That would make any Carrot Tip Spear user very happy. Now, if you would rather play more into the rally play style, you could try something like a hybrid support role to provide debuffs. Then you could also borrow Spring Henry's rally and ruse skills. Basically, it's another way to get the attack and defense debuffs for Luthier without moving an ally. If you do want to tank it out, you could try things like Unity, Bond 4, or Form Seals. Now, while the Carrot Tip Spear can be fun, it is reliant on debuffs. Luthier has many other inheritable options, and these can open up some non-debuff centric playstyles. For example, the Flowing Lance or the Unbound Lance from Marcia is a very easy way to make a solo build. You get a stronger low attack and defense effect, and you can pair it with double solo skills and a Rouse buff. Since the weapon already has low attack and defense, basically you're free to run something like Kanto near Trey's Beast skills for fun. Doubling up with low attack and speed isn't terrible either. The fun thing about Unbound Lance is that it inflicts attack debuffs. This can let Luthier grab some extra defense and res or add in some speed to be a fun all-around unit. Now if you prefer to go the full attack and speed route, we have two options. First is the Springy Lance Plus from Spring Minerva. She's a 4-star focus unit and will be returning soon. It grants +5 attack and speed and neutralizes attack and speed debuffs. The other option is the Piercing Tribute Plus from Valentine's Wayne. Unfortunately, if you didn't get him, he's gone for quite a while. This lance grants +5 attack and speed with defense of no follow-up. If you want to ignore attack and speed debuffs, the Springy Lance is best, but if you want some defensive power, then Piercing Tribute is pretty good. With his okay defense and res stats, Luthier would definitely be a decent user of it by not getting doubled by free follow-up attacks. You could also pair it with Flow Guard for the full no follow-up skill when you initiate. Now, there are other inheritable options you could choose as well, a ton in fact. Maybe the Guilt Fork / Steadfast Lance, Courtly Candle / Stout Lance, Show Point Lance from Summer Norn, you got the good old Fire Sweep or the fun new Ninja Brave Lances. There's also the Instant Lance or Guard Lance. Tons of choices, and Luthier can make any of them work, although he isn't specializing super hard anywhere. Overall, decent Tempest trials and always worthwhile for those sweet orbs. The 2 Sacred Souls are okay but not must upgrades. Takarin's Oath can be useful if you really need those field buffs on a user. For Spring Luthier, he's a solid all-rounder for the Lance Cavalry class. Good attack, decent speed, and a somewhat balanced defense and res. A lot of Lance Cavs struggle with resistance, so if you want someone to take a magical damage hit, then Luthier can be a better option. For the Carrot Tip Spear, it's another attack and defense focused lance, and this one adds a one-time big burst of damage if the foe has attack and defense debuffs on them. It really works well with attack and defense menace, but Luthier has attack and defense snag if you want to try it out that way. If you prefer a different inherited weapon, that's totally fine. We have a ton of lances available, although if you want a speed focused one, you're gonna need to find one of these seasonal 4-star focus units. That'll be it for this video. Go and get those orbs and all the fun rewards. I want as many orbs as possible before the A Hero Rises banner comes later this month. Next up, we will talk about this month's Ephemeral Comet manuals. See you then.